Alright guys, welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, and today we're going to be talking about macros. Macros are extremely similar to functions, however they have some key differences, and that's pretty much what I'm going to outline in this video. Now if you haven't watched my video on functions, please go check that out. Links to the entire playlist for our Unreal Engine 5 series is in the description below. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm just going to close out some of this stuff. And as you see, I'm working again in the third person template. I'm going to delete this cube. To begin off here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. Well, I'm going to delete the old stuff. Let's delete all this stuff. Alright, to begin off here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder here and call it Blueprints. This is great for organization because it allows anybody else that might be helping you on the project or yourself to know where everything is. I'm now going to double click into here and I'm going to create a blueprint class. This will be an actor. An actor is an object that can be placed in your scene, and I'm going to call this BP underscore macro tutorial. Boom. Going to go ahead and double click on this. And again, you get a wonky look like this. I'm going to take the event graph, drag it right over here so it docks. If I can get it to dock. Come on. There we go. All right, go ahead and close that. And then I drag this right up here so that way I can toggle between the two. I'm going to go to the viewport now, and I'm just going to go ahead and come here to components, add a cube for visual and drag that there, compile, save. And we're now going to take this and drag it into the scene. Okay, so there is my cube actor. I'm gonna go ahead now and come back to the event graph. And here, right over here, under my blueprints is where you get access to all of this stuff. Now, before we talked about functions, functions again are ways to reuse code. I did a massive talk about the dry principle. I won't do the full example here, but essentially the dry principle says don't repeat yourself, because if you end up repeating yourself, you will be very sad when you have to go and refactor your code base. Oftentimes, functions and macros are the best and most easiest way to keep all of your blueprints / code organized and reusable and refactorable. If refactorable is a word. Anyways, I digress here. But super important, guys. Dry principle. Don't repeat yourself. Best advice I've probably given so far in this entire tutorial series. Coming back over here now, as we saw before, you can create functions by typing that in. However, one thing about functions is you can't have a delay node. So if I right click here and I type in delay, I can set delay length, I can do cast the stuff, right? But if I hold D and click, nothing happens. However, if I come over here and I hold D and click, I get my delay node. And this is one key difference between macros and functions, is functions do not allow you to have a delay node, while macros allow you to have delay nodes. Also, if you notice when I call a function here, it asks for a target. This is because multiple blueprints essentially can have access to the same functions. I'm not going to get too much into public versus private right now and the access modifiers and all of that. Just know that that's one thing that functions can have, is they can have shared functions across multiple different actors or objects in your game, where macros aren't like that. Macros, if I go ahead and just call, this new macro that I just made randomly, if I just drag this in here, it asks for no object, right? There's no object reference that it needs to run. So macros are private versus functions are public, or can be public. Sometimes functions are private as well. Okay, but that's another crucial difference between macros and functions. Okay, but other than that, they are extremely, extremely similar. Another thing that functions have is they automatically have an execution pin here, and you don't get a choice to change that. But for macros, that is not the case. If I come here and I just create an adding macro, essentially you have full customization of how you want this to happen. So I can come here to the input and I can click plus, and this will essentially be an input that is taken in by the user. And I can actually come here and I can grab an execution pin and call this execution. And I can actually add that as something that I want, right? So I don't necessarily need to have an execution pin, which is super nice. Actually, let's go ahead and look at an example where you have no execution pin. So I'm going to come here and I'm just going to click sum. We're just going to come here, do floats, and I'm going to call this number 1. And then I'm going to create another number, call this number 2. Boom. And then on the output, I'm going to go ahead and output the sum. And as you see here, now I can come here and I can do add these two numbers, boom, to boom. And there you go. And essentially I've just done what this is, but that's okay. And essentially now I have an input and an output. And I can go ahead and save this and come back out. Now when I go to the event begin play graph, I can drag this adding. And as you see, it needs no execution pin. So I can actually just come here and go print here. And I can drag the sum variable into here. And there you go. So now the event begin play will now grab this new function or new macro that I just created. And now I can specify the numbers here. Boom. I'm going to go ahead and compile and save. And as you see, now when I click play here, I get the summation popping up right here in my right hand or left hand corner. So again, that is a nice simple little example of a macro just to kind of get you guys going here. And of course, you can always add execution pins to this stuff by just dragging here and call this, I don't know, starts. And you can also have execution pins at the end here as well. So let's say you wanted something else to happen here at the end. Boom, I can do that and I can compile and save this. Now I come back here to my event graph and now I have a start and an end pin. So I can now drag this in like so, and then I have this coming out just like so. And as you can see, I can create executions just like before using macros. I think macros are a lot more customizable for this reason, and you can do quite a lot of cool stuff with macros. Let's go ahead and do an example where I print the player's health based upon damage taken. Why don't we do that? And I'll do this with macros. Okay. All right. So very similar to the health bar example we did in the widgets tutorial. This time it will just print the information rather than update a health bar. However, you could do it that way as well if you wanted to. All right. So I'm going to come here to my player here, and I'm going to give him two new variables here. I'm going to call this max health. So we'll call this max health. Boom. And then we'll call this health. Boom. Cool, cool. All right, then we'll set both of these to 100. So he'll start out here at 100. Boom. Okay. All right, now I'm going to come here and I'm going to do damage, which is an event. So whenever the person takes damage here, here is the damage pin. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a macro here called damage player. So I'm going to rename this damage player. Boom. Okay, so damage player is going to take in two numbers here. That's going to be the health of player and then damage. Okay, I don't need any execution here, and then I'll call this new health here. Okay, and as you can imagine, it's going to go ahead and subtract those two numbers here. So I'm going to take the health of the player, and then I'm going to do the damage here. And I'm also going to come here and do another output and say is alive. So this will be a Boolean, is alive. Boom. Okay. And right now, this will always be checkmarked to true, just for now. And essentially what I'm going to do is then I'm going to take, after this is subtracted, I'm going to go ahead and return this. But also I'm going to grab greater than. And I'm going to check if this is greater than 0. And if it is, then we are good. If it is not, then the player is not alive. So here I'm able to set the health of the min health, or I could say like the death health, I guess, for lack of better words, right? And just like that, I've created a macro for damaging the player. Now, whenever the player takes damage, I can grab this macro, just like so. I'm going to drag in my damage right here. I'm going to grab the health of the player, whatever it is at the current time. Boom. All right. Then I'm going to create a branch node here. I'm first going to go ahead and set the health of the player here to whatever the new health is, just like so. Then I'm going to go ahead and take this branch node here, and essentially if the player is alive, I want nothing to happen. However, if the player is dead, I want to destroy the actor. And this will be self. To get a reference to self, I'm just going to type in self. You would also do, actually, hold on, this is in a box here, so I'll do get player character. Boom, I actually think I'm doing this in a blue box, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, whoops, I thought I was doing this in the player character script. My mistake, guys. So I'll just grab this, take this on over to the third person character. My mistake on that, guys. I thought I was in here for some reason. Losing my mind a little bit, I guess. Boom. And as you can see, it doesn't know what the macro is. So I'm just going to come here and call this damage, or not function, my mistake. Delete this, come here, call this damage, player, boom, come over to the macro tutorial blueprints, grab that damage player function. I'm just going to grab these two. I'll just recreate this. My mistake, guys. Get all that, get all this. Boom, come over back here, compile save this. Boom, come here. Alright, coming here to this macro. Again, creating the two inputs and then creating the two outputs here. It's going to be a float. This will be a boolean. This will be new health. This will be is alive. Boom, and then this will be two floats. This will be health. This will be damage. Boom, and I'm just going to extract these two. Boom, and we're going to take the health minus the damage, just like that. And then we're going to come here and do greater than, and we're going to check if the new health is greater than 0. If it is, then we come out here and we're going to return whatever this is. Boom. Okay, creating that macro again, just like that. Boom, coming out here to this, we're going to delete this, come back into the event graph here. Boom, and then this is all upsets. So I'm just going to carve out my damage player here, just like so. Drag in health, drag in damage, drag in the new health, and drag in the is alive variable. And as you can see, now it's going to go ahead and destroy the actor. And I got to create my variables. So I got to create health again. Boom, this will be a float. Create my max health. Boom. And there you go. So now when the player is damaged, we will now see this. Okay. So, and also I can also print the new health to the screen in the macro. So this is another example here. I could do it with the event pin, or I could just come here and do print. I'll actually just do that. We'll just go ahead and print the string whenever the player is damaged. Boom. Okay. All right. And there is a great example of how you can use a macro. Nothing too crazy here. Just a simple macro that damages the player and helps us recognize when the player is hurt. Boom. We'll give him 100 health to get their start. Boom. Compile, save. And we'll just come here now and take in inputs. Here, get the first key, and then come here, inputs, and get the second key. Boom, and then we'll just do apply damage, and we'll do 10, and the damage actor will be self. Self is whatever instance you are currently editing, so right now I'm editing the character, so self is character. Duplicate this, come down, 2 is pressed, we'll do -10. Boom, and then again the damage actor is self. And as you can see, now when the damage is applied, it's going to run through that macro. It's going to set the new health variable that we saw before, and it's going to print the new health value. If the health player is below 0, meaning is alive from this macro returns false, it will destroy the character. Okay, all right, so I believe everything should be set up now. As you can see here, when I click 1, I'm at 90, 80, 70, 60, 50. I can add back up now, and if I go all the way down, I pass away, as you can see. So Again, that was a nice little simple example here, but of course now if I ever want to change how the damage player works, I can always come in here and I can see the logic. So let's say I wanted to change the min health, let's say to, I don't know, negative 100. I could do it in a second and I don't have to worry about it because my code base is nice and organized. And as you can see, it works just fine. So there it is, guys. There's a nice little simple example of how you can use macros inside of Unreal Engine 5 to keep your code base nice and organized and be more effective. I hope this video was helpful for anybody out there who's trying to learn this stuff. And if you have a question, please feel free to leave a comment. And I will see you all in the next one.